Okay, Charles, you're good to go. Thank you.
No problem. So before we start the meeting, I would like to read a land acknowledgement. The land on which we meet has been here from time immemorial. People have inhabited Southern Ontario for about 10,000 years, and we acknowledge the neutral people, also called Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee, people who lived here when settlers arrived and who share this land with us. May we together learn to care for and respect each other, our flora and fauna, and the land we inhabit together. So I remind the committee and members of the public that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. This meeting is being held electronically due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Precautions and measures are in place regarding social distancing to ensure the health and safety for those in attendance at the municipal office. Anyone who registered to participate in this meeting will be invited to speak in order of the applications being heard. I will now do a roll call for the committee for the benefit of the public watching this meeting. When I call your name, please wave at your camera and say here or present. I, Charles Zeidler, am chairing this meeting here. And committee members and staff, Jim Burley.
Here.
Tim Cronin.
I'm here.
Linda Dixon.
Here.
Hans Potkamer.
Present.
David Gundrum, who's our planner.
Here.
And Nancy Thompson, who's the recording secretary.
Present.
Great. I will now provide an explanation of the procedures for this meeting. Each application will be read by Nancy. She will ask each applicant to make a brief presentation, not to exceed 10 minutes. The committee will be given an opportunity to question the applicant. Any other person who has registered with the recording secretary and is wishing to address an application, either for or against, will then be given the opportunity to speak. Please make sure you have turned on your microphone and video if possible, and identify yourself clearly for the recording secretary. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the committee will make a decision on the application. Once decision on your application is complete, please mute your microphone and turn off the video. You are free to leave the meeting at this time or remain and listen to the balance of the application. The applicants are advised that each application has a 20-day appeal period as required under the Planning Act. The last day of appeal for the applications heard today is August 3rd, 2022. At this time, I will ask if any members of the committee, if they are declaring a pecuniary conflict of interest with any of the applications.
No.
No.
Okay, perfect. That's everyone. So now I will ask Nancy to read the first application.
Thanks, Charles. First application this evening is minor variance application A15 2022 for Amos and Louisa Martin for the property at 1769, 1775 Listowel Road. The property is zoned agricultural and contains a single detached dwelling, a livestock barn, sheds, and a metal works shop. The applicant is proposing to construct a 421 square meter addition to the existing metalworks shop and is requesting relief from section 6.22.5 of the on-farm diversified use regulations to reduce the required setback between the adjacent residential use at 4175 Steffler Road and the metalworks shop / area of operation from 150 meters to approximately 135 meters. And Solomon Martin is the agent and is here to speak to the application. Solomon?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, are you able to come a little bit closer to your phone or your device? It's a little bit echoey.
Okay, I'm at my computer.
So your microphone's likely in your computer, so just maybe getting a little closer to it if you can.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, that's much better. Thanks, Solomon.
Okay. Okay, this application is for a minor variance, for section 6.22.5 to reduce the required setback from the adjacent residential use located on at 4175 Stepper Road. That it is for a metal fabricating shop. And there is an existing building there, so we really could not meet the other MDS of 150 meters, so we are seeking a reduction for down to 135. And that's all I really have to say, I think.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the committee have any questions of the applicant? No. Okay. And do we have, Nancy, anybody from the public that want to speak about this application?
Charles, there are no members of the public for this application.
Okay, perfect. And would anybody in the committee like to make a motion for this one?
I'll
Tim.
make a motion if you're ready. I would move that minor variance application A15-2022 for Solomon Martin concerning the property described as 1769 Listowel Road, request relief from zoning bylaw 6.22.5 be approved, subject to A, that the existing metal fabrication shop proposed bench construction location detailed in 2A and the noise compatibility assessment, and that the owner enter into a site plan agreement for the operation, including the implementation of any requirement from the noise compatibility assessment report.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll second it.
Linda, thank you. And all those in favor? That's everyone. And then all those opposed would be no one. So the motion has been passed. So again, Solomon, if I can remind you of the appeal expires on August 3rd of 2022 of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. I'll email the decision out and you're free to leave the meeting at this time if you wish.
Okay, I will leave, yes.
The next application is minor variance application A16/2022 for Ian Martin for the property at 2912 Arthur Street North. The property is zoned agricultural, contains a single detached dwelling and a detached garage. The applicant is proposing to construct a 116 square meter agricultural shed/barn on the 0.4 hectare property and is requesting relief from section 7.4 to recognize a reduced lot frontage of 27 meters, whereas 30 meters is required. And Ian is here in attendance. Ian, if you'd like to turn your microphone on and your video, and if you wish to address the committee, thank you.
Hi, it's Ian Martin. So I'm just looking for relief on the section 7.4 for the reduced lot frontage for the agriculture building. I really don't have a lot to say on that other than my lot frontage is currently 27 meters. And I think that section asks for 30 meters, so I'm asking for relief on that.
Thanks, Ian. And Nancy, was there anybody from the public that want to speak about this application?
No, Charles, there's no members from the public for this application.
Perfect, thank you. Any members of the committee have any questions of the applicant? Not looking like it. And then is there anybody from the committee that would like to make a motion? Linda?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so I move that minor variance application A16/2020 concerning the property known municipally as 2912 Arthur Street North to recognize a reduced lot frontage of 27 meters for an existing lot in the agricultural zone to allow for the development of a farm-related structure be approved.
Thank you, Linda. Do we have a seconder for that? Hans?
Second.
Thanks, Hans. And then all those in favor?
Charles,
Sorry, Jim?
to you, Charles. Just to correct Linda, she said A16/2020 for recording. It should be A16/2022.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Hans, are you still going to second that?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, thank you. And then all those in favor? Okay, so that's everyone. All those opposed would be no one. So Ian, the motion has been passed, and just remind you of that, the appeal period expires August 3rd of 2022.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Again, you can disconnect from the meeting if you want. The next application is minor variance application A17-2022 for Habib Mohammadi at 1343 King Street North in St. Jacobs. The property is zoned residential medium density, contains a residential building containing 4 apartment units as per minor variance A4199. The applicant is proposing to convert an existing storage area attached to the residential building into a 48 square meter apartment unit and is requesting the following: to expand the legal non-conforming use of an apartment building from 4 apartment units to 5 apartment units, and to permit the 5th apartment unit to have a total floor area of 48 square meters, whereas 50 square meters is required. The property received minor variance approval in 1999 to recognize the existing 4 apartment units and to allow 2 of the existing units to have reduced floor areas of 29.9 and 27.5 square meters. The property is located at the corner of King Street North and Princess Street West. George Cedra is the consultant, is in attendance at the meeting. And Charles, there is a member of the public for this application as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Nancy. So
George, if you'd like
it's
to address the committee. Sorry, Charles.
after you.
Sure. You hear me okay?
Yes, perfect. Your video and audio is good. Thank you.
That's great. Very good. Okay. So good afternoon, the Honorable Committee. Just a few words here that I'm gonna talk about the variance. Of course, David and the staff of the township have laid out everything very nicely. So we did consulted them at every step in the way, and they were very supportive, and they told us what needs to be done. And I think it's very clear that the tests that were done to prove that this minor variance is applicable and this minor variance is desirable is there. The need for housing is great, and Bill 108 calling for more homes and more choices to allow vulnerable people and people who don't have a lot of means to be able to have a house and a roof over their head. And this is going to be a good example of a very small, tiny place where a person can enjoy or have a place to call home. It's a 1-bedroom apartment with a small kitchen and living space and the dining area. So I'm pretty sure there are so many people are looking for this right now, and approving this is something we really, really appreciate. Thank you very much. I'm available for any question.
Thank you, George.
Thank
you. And then Nancy, did somebody want to?
Yes, Doreen Martin is a member of the public that had forwarded comments. I'm not sure if Doreen wanted to actually speak to the application.
I don't think so. I have made my comments. My biggest concern, of course, is parking. We live right beside, and it already is quite busy there, and it's a very busy street as it goes right to the school. But if you have questions for me, that's fine. But otherwise, I'll just listen.
Thanks, Doreen. Is there any members of the committee that have any questions of George? Jim?
Yes, has this been approved by the fire department for proper safety exits and escape routes, since this is being expanded into a 5-unit apartment?
Well, definitely when we apply for building permit, all the aspects about the fire separation, the exit sign, the emergency light, all of this will be taken care of as a part of the review that usually done at the township level. The building department will look into all these aspects. We already provide them with a preliminary design, but definitely when I start to talk about all the small details, we will look after all of this. small code requirements that are guaranteed that the place will be safe and functional.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee of the applicant? Hans?
I am concerned about parking. Since it is in a fairly built-up area. And I'm wondering how many on-site parking stalls there are available for the tenants and the inhabitants of the structure.
We have 5 parking spaces. And in fact, the size of each parking space is, the width of the parking is 2.75 meter. Originally, I put it at 2.6, and that will allow like 6 parking spaces, but I was corrected by staff that the bylaw or the zoning or the planning department rather put it at 2.75. But if you look at other cities like Kitchener, for example, it's 2.6. Cambridge 2.7 only. So it varies from one city to another. But honestly, I looked at this in myself too, and I noticed that there is a big area. And one of the I read one of the people who send the letters. They mentioned that the North Park of the property can be used for more parking. And I have seen now that being in this profession for many years now, that some cities start relaxing some of the bylaw rules. For example, city of Kitchener would never allow 2 years ago to widen the driveway more than 6 meters. Now we have 8 meters. So there are, moving into increasing the amount of parking. I know it's not a great thing because we're reducing, on the other hand, the green area, but there is, we have to strike a certain balance also. There is lots of green areas around St. Jacob and around this area. So I don't honestly, I'm hoping that this can be resolved at a different maybe meeting if we apply for another minor variance to increase the amount of parking that we are permitted.
Thank you, George. Hans, does that answer your question?
Not entirely. Giving examples of built-up cities in a small community like this is not really applicable. So I want to make sure that there's at least 1 parking stall per dwelling unit, and that the visitor parking doesn't become a problem for the neighbors and for traffic flow, particularly given the proximity of a school.
There is 1 parking space per unit, and they are small units. It's all 1 bedroom units. So I am assuming that this is acceptable in terms of the bylaws. So that's my take on this.
Okay. Hans, anything further with that?
No, thank you.
And Linda, you had a question?
Well, it's not so much a question, so I concur with Hans. When I was out there, I think one of the things that struck me was the concern about parking without seeing any comments come through. And I thought that the current spot looked a little tight. I didn't know if the one garage was used for parking, but I have to admit that I was concerned on my site visit for the parking. So my question, and I understand that there may be the ability for 5 parking spaces for each unit, but if they do have people visit, then they're going to be parking on the street, which sounds like it can be a concern for the residents. And it is a tight street. I guess I'm asking David, what is because there is the way the motion is reading with the condition, it talks about parking. So looking to staff for some clarification on the parking requirements for this property.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Through the chair to address that, the zoning bylaw, as it's been mentioned previously by George and others, does require one space per unit. We, based on the information provided to us and the dimensions of the site, there is an ability to meet the required parking ratio of 1 space per unit, so 5 spaces total on the site. We did provide a condition to any approval that all required parking spaces conform to the zoning bylaw requirements regarding size and location. The reason we included that is that currently the 3 outdoor spaces on the site that are to the west of the dwelling, that graveled area is not deep enough to permit 3 legal spaces on the site where those curb stops are because of where the property line actually is. So that's why that condition has been provided. So on building permit, the applicants have to demonstrate that those 3 outdoor spaces will be entirely within the limits of the property. And one of the existing interior garages, the double wide one, it's been demonstrated on a plan that can accommodate 2 legal parking spaces. So that would give the 5 required. Does that help clarify for you, Linda?
Yes, so that thank you, because it did look rather, the width may be okay, but I would agree that the length of them looked a little tight and probably on the road. So if the township staff are satisfied that will cover it off, that if it's an issue, once all the plans are laid out, and that if there's a need to increase anything with the parking, that can be done through that condition, then I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other questions from the committee? No. And how would the committee like to handle this application? Linda?
I'll make a motion. I move that minor variance application A17 2022 concerning the property known municipally as 1343 King Street North to permit the expansion of an existing legal non-conforming use from 4 units to add a 5th apartment unit having a total floor area of 48 square meters be approved subject to 2 conditions: that the expansion of the legal non-conforming use to include the 5th apartment unit be consistent with the submitted floor plan dated December 2021, which is drawing A1, prepared by GS Engineering Group, and that all required parking spaces for the 5-unit apartment building conform to zoning bylaw requirements regarding their size and location.
Thank you, Linda. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Hans. And then all those in favor? And that's everyone. So all those opposed would be no one. So George, again, the appeal expires on, the motion's been passed with the 2 conditions and the appeal expires on August 3rd, 2022.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And I will email out the decision.
Thank you.
The next application is for minor variance application A18 2022 for Richard and Sharon Cressman for the property at 45 Oriole Parkway West in Elmira. The property is zoned residential 1-unit low density and contains a single detached dwelling and 3 accessory sheds. The applicant is proposing to construct a new accessory dwelling unit as a separate accessory building and is requesting the following. Accessory buildings sections 6.4.2C to increase the building height for a new accessory building from 4.5 meters to approximately 4.65 meters. Accessory dwelling units, section 6.4.7, maximum floor area, item I, to increase the maximum floor area from 95 square meters to approximately 178 square meters, consisting of a main floor of approximately 91 square meters and a full basement of approximately 87 square meters floor area, with a basement height of approximately 2.6 meters. And accessory building section 6.4.4 to increase the maximum lot coverage for all accessory buildings from 70 square meters to approximately 128 square meters, which includes the 91 square meter accessory dwelling unit and 2 of the existing sheds, which total approximately 37 square meters in area. The third shed is proposed to be demolished. There are no members of the public to speak to this application. Richard Cressman, the property owner, if you would like to address the committee.
Okay, am I turned on there now?
You are good, Richard. Thank you.
The third shed, the oldest of the sheds, has been dismantled. So that has been taken care of. I'd like to thank the committee for looking at our request for our AUD plan and our request for a full height basement. As you already know, we have a very large lot. We have excess space in front of the AUD plan. Behind, there's excess space, and there's enough space to our property line. Our request for the basement of 6'4" to go to approximately 7'8". We also have to allow for an 8-inch beam and HVAC ducting. So at 6'4" with an 8-inch beam, we're down to 5'8". I'm 6'2". My son is 6'4". Anyway, for longer use, like as we get older, I don't know, I just think 6'4" is not a reasonable height. It should be higher. So we plan to retire in a few more years, not real soon, but in 4 or 5 years. And we plan to live in the ADU as long as possible, hopefully till we're in our late 80s or whatever. My youngest son and his wife and 3 children, they will move into the existing house. They need the size of the house and the bedrooms. And this will remove one family from the rental market to make room for someone else. As we age, our mobility always is an issue. And not that we're going to be in the basement often, but maneuver yourself when you're older under solid objects is always a concern. I'm just asking you to consider our request, and I'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Richard. Is there any questions from the committee for the applicant? No questions from the committee, and there's no one here to speak of from the public. Linda?
Yes, so, okay. So I guess I do have a question for the applicant. So I appreciate the comments with respect to trying to locate your utilities, your mechanical in the basement and the need for the height. I'm just concerned. I'll be honest, looking at it as an accessory dwelling, I think the term probably granny flats is starting to we're moving away from that and going to accessory dwelling units. But I also look at this as down the road, it's with a full basement and the accessory unit, the ability to sever this property is a realistic possibility. I know that's not the intent, but the fact that you have a full basement and underneath. So I'm looking at it in that regard, and I don't know if the location meets the current zoning requirements if it was a separate lot. I will admit I did have some concerns with a full basement with respect to an access. I appreciate your comments, totally understand your rationale, but given what we're looking at, I did have some concerns with the need for, well, not the need, but the fact that we were putting a full basement under the accessory dwelling. So I don't know if you have any feedback on that or not, but that's just my view and take on it.
Well, it's, yeah, 6'4" is, in my opinion, it's larger than a crawl space, but still it isn't user friendly. If we could eliminate steel beams and ductwork, we could probably live with it. But the way the design has been drawn up right now, there's going to be at least 4 beams to contend with. Yeah, so I'm not sure what else I can say. And it's, oh yeah. Another question, go ahead.
Thank you, Richard. Tim, go ahead.
Yes, a question to staff, if I may, for David there. So if I'm reading this correct, the recommendation is not on the height of the basement that we're concerned about. It's the actual square footage of an accessory unit that we want to increase the accessory building size up by using it as basement units. So I think if I'm reading this, it's saying that it becomes not necessarily an accessory dwelling, becomes a full house if we allow a full basement. So it's this comment to prevent a full basement, and then the house would have to be built with either a crawl space or on a pad. Is that what this section would do to us?
Through the chair, Member Cronin, that's correct. Allowing the full basement would allow for an accessory dwelling unit that's almost, in this case, as proposed, almost twice the size of what the upper limit otherwise would be. The intent of the bylaw, the intent of keeping the ADUs to detached ADUs to a maximum of 95 square meters or just over 1,000 square feet is to ensure that they do remain accessory in terms of scale and size relative to the principal dwelling. Granted, the property in this case is extraordinarily large for the neighborhood. It's quite large, maybe the largest or second largest on the entire street, which is a very long street in Elmira. And granted that the house is probably over 3,000 square feet to itself. All that being said, however, an ADU of this size certainly far exceeds what the intent of the zoning bylaw directs in this case, which is why this point of relief is really less about the height of the basement, more about the size of the ADU in terms of our evaluation. So.
Thanks, David. Tim?
If I have maybe a follow-up unit, so to keep his design going down to a crawl space, would there be something available to allow a deeper basement area, increase it somewhat to allow the mechanicals, the furnace to be down there is what he'd be looking for in heights, without allowing for a full basement? Is there some other version that we could do to accommodate mechanicals without allowing for a full basement?
Yeah, through the chair, Member Cronin, correct. Like in the regulation under section 647 that regards ADUs, we do discount or net out any floor area for utility and service areas. So, furnace, hot water tank, water softener, etc. So those areas that contain those services don't count as usable floor space and therefore don't count towards that 95 square meter upper limit. So if there is a more fuller height area underneath, and it contains like a utility area, like we would not count that, even if it exceeds that that ceiling height. We still wouldn't count it in that case if it's considered purely a utility area.
Thank you, Dave. That answers my questions. I'm on board with the just my other comments is that if it's going to be an accessory unit, then we should stay within the limits, and we are increasing the accessory size to keep it to that and still allow the utilities. If it wants to be a full house, then there's other options like Linda was suggesting a severance or creating a new lot or whatever would be available for that. Because an accessory unit, I'm happy with the motions as recommended.
Sorry, Linda, I have a quick question for David too. When you were addressing Tim's first question, I thought you said attached accessory building. Just want to verify this is a detached, right? I could have heard you wrong.
Sorry, I apologize if I said attached. I meant to say detached, and that is what the proposal is for in this particular situation.
Perfect. Thank you, David. And Linda, you have a question or comment?
So all the discussion that we've had with respect to the basement, I do have a bit of a concern with number 2 in the recommendation when it talks about detached accessory dwelling unit of 91 square meters. While I have the concerns about the basement, on the upper floor, they're talking about 91.4 square meters. So if I'm looking at the recommendation here, I mean, it's going to make it even tighter for them with respect to the building. I think maybe, you know, I might recommend that we look at 130 square meters just to cover off that main floor to be such that it meets the plans that are in front of us. Anyway, that's I don't know if there's any comments on that from staff.
Through the chair, Member Dixon, I would say that would be a more, perhaps a wiser course of action to allow that extra leeway so that we don't get caught, the applicant doesn't get caught and they have to adjust their plans versus what's been presented. So if the committee is comfortable with that, I'm sure we can certainly amend the condition to read to add a little bit extra buffer for the applicant.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Any other questions from the committee? Looking like none. And Linda, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make I'm just going to ask for a clarification. So they can have a full basement under this building where all the utilities and services are without it affecting the floor area requirements and the need for a variance from that. And then the rest could be more of a crawl space. Did I hear that correctly?
Through the chair, Member Dixon, that is correct. If there's any area below grade in the basement that's specifically dedicated for utility only, and it is a full height in that area, it still would not count as usable floor area towards the maximum size of the ADU.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so how would staff like to handle this one? Or sorry, the committee.
Go ahead, Tim.
Tim.
I would like to make a motion that minor variance application 2022 for request concerning the property 45 Oriole Parkway, requesting relief from the zoning bylaw section 6.4.2C permit detached accessory dwelling have a maximum height of 4.65 meters, where 4.5 is permitted, and section 6.4.4 permit total combined accessory building size of 130 square meters among all detached accessory buildings. Detached accessory dwelling unit of 91, or what, I'll leave that wording out, just detached accessory buildings, denoting the size of the existing building, but we won't tie that in. Excuse for the year. And existing sheds, where 70 square meters is permitted among detached accessory buildings. Be approved, and that the following request relief from zoning bylaw 6.4.7 increased maximum floor area detached to 178 square meters be denied.
Okay, Linda.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a seconder, and all those in favor? That would be everybody. So all of those opposed, unfortunately, be nobody. So Richard, unfortunately, that's the decision the committee has made.
Okay, so I'll talk with the architect there, David. And then we'll see what we need for space for the utilities, and then I'll have to get back to you. Is that okay?
That sounds good, Rick. And just a note, I'm off for the next week, but certainly there'll be staff on hand and for this week and early next who can, help out with that if I'm not available.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, very much.
Thanks, Richard. And I'll email the decision out to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I guess he could appeal it as well up until August 3rd, correct?
Sure. Yes, there is that appeal process that Mr. Cressman would have if he chooses to pursue that. noting that, of course, it delays a building permit. So that's the decision he'll have to make.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
The next application is consent application B 17-2022 for numbered company 2359555 Ontario Inc. for 63 Union Street, Elmira. The property is zoned general industrial urban M2 and contains an industrial building. The applicant is requesting permission to extend an access easement / right of way on the property at 63 Union Street in favor of the adjacent lands at 67 Union Street. The proposed easement measures approximately 17 meters wide by 48 meters in depth and will be located at the rear of the property as an extension of an existing access easement for the purpose of truck turning movements. The property at 67 Union Street is proposing to construct a warehouse addition to the rear of the existing industrial building. And Brian Verspegen from Walter Fady is here to speak to the application together with the agent. Brian, if you'd like to turn on your video and audio and address the committee.
Sure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The application really is a reciprocal application. The property at 67 presently uses 63 for turning movements because the buildings are close together. And with this extension, a similar agreement needs to be in place for the JD Works facility to be able to do some turning movements onto their property. So the access to both parcels is commonly used and shared by both owners, and it seems to be a very good agreement that's working out right now. Otherwise, the description is very good and summarizes the application nicely.
Thank you, Brian. Did Frank have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. We have a very agreeable agreement between me and Dwayne. We constantly use each other's properties because we share the laneway. And if we want to do the addition in the back, we're going to have to turn our truck on his property. And I guess the township is asking for us to make some changes to our agreement because it only permits the first half of the property, if I'm not misunderstood. So now we're just extending it to the whole property.
Thank you, Frank. Do any members of the committee have any questions of the applicant? Not looking like it. And then Nancy, was there anybody from the public that don't want to speak about this application?
Charles, there is no one from the public for this application.
Oh, sorry if you already told me that.
I didn't. No, I skipped that one. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And then how would the committee like to handle this application? Linda.
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent application B 17-2022 concerning the property municipally addressed to 63 Union Street, Elmira, to create a new easement measuring approximately 817 square meters in favor of property municipally addressed to 67 Union Street in Elmira for the purpose of vehicle access and circulation related to a proposed industrial building addition be approved, subject to condition 1 and condition 2 as set out in the recommendation.
Thank you, Linda.
I'll second that.
Jim, seconder, thank you. And then all those in favor? And that's everyone. So all opposed would be no one. So I guess Brian, Frank, the motion has been passed for the decision. So just remind you of that. Appeal period expires August 3rd, 2022.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next application is consent applications B 18-2022 and B 19-2022 for numbered company 2865062 Ontario Inc. for the property at 1381 King Street North in St. Jacobs. The property zoned core commercial urban for a portion of the property fronting King Street North containing existing commercial building and residential medium density for the rear of the property fronting onto Queensway Drive. The applicant is proposing to create 2 new residential lots for the purpose of constructing a semi-detached dwelling and is requesting the following: to sever 2 parcels of land, each measuring approximately 10 by 27 meters and each being approximately 281 square meters in area from the rear of 1381 King Street North for the purpose of creating 2 new residential lots on full municipal services. The proposed severed lands are zoned R3 and will front onto Queensway Drive. The proposed retained lands are zoned C1 and will measure approximately 20 by 52 meters, being approximately 1,061 square meters in area and contain the existing commercial building. The applicant, Phil is here, yes. Jonathan from Polo Corp is the agent speaking to the application, and there's one member of the public for this application as well, Charles.
Thank you, Nancy.
Jonathan, if you'd like to address the committee for the application.
Sure, thanks, Nancy. Yeah, just to reiterate what Nancy said, we're looking to create 2 lots at the rear of this property fronting on the Queensway Drive to create a semi-detached dwelling with 2 semi-detached units. The proposed severance conforms to the zoning, so the rear zoning R3 permits the semi-detached and will permit the proposed design of the site, and as well the front, the remaining portion with the Village Beer Garden will also conform to the C1 zoning along King Street. The severance will have no impact on the operations of the Village Beer Garden in terms of access and parking and circulation on that end. And a very similar consent was also approved by the committee in 2020 to create a single detached lot at the rear of the property instead of a semi-detached lot. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, the applicant wasn't able to fulfill all of the conditions of the consent and it lapsed. So we are reapplying for that to do a semi-detached at the rear instead, and are supportive of all the conditions that staff has proposed for this application. So I'm available for any questions, and I believe Phil Hipkiss is also attending, the owner, to answer questions as well.
Thank you, Jonathan. Did Phil have anything to say, or?
Nope, nothing from my end, if you can hear me.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. And then do any members of the committee have any questions for Jonathan or Phil? Linda.
So it's maybe kind of a question to both, because I actually did reach out to staff today. So I was asking about B15 of 20 because I don't recall it. I knew when I was out the property, it kind of looked familiar. So just to clarify, and looking at the report that was submitted with the application, as you indicated, Mr. Hahn, that was for a single lot?
Correct.
At the time, which committee approved. And it also approved it based on record of site condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that comment, those were addressed, condition was it, looking at your report, was addressed through the first application?
So yeah, the applicant submitted a record of site condition for the rear portion, the retained or the severed lands.
But not for the retained, for what the, and the.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. I think that helps me out, David, too, from what I was asking earlier today too. So I just indicated I would raise it because I did have a concern. I thought maybe some of the other committee members might want to refresher on it too. So thank you for that.
No problem. And I'll just add that the request, that condition showed up at request of the Region of Waterloo in their response and review from circulation.
For the retained, right?
Correct.
Thanks, David. Do any other members of the committee have any questions of the applicant? Okay, it's not looking like any. So Nancy, I guess it would be time for the member of the public to speak about the application.
Yes, David and Rebecca Beard are here as members of the public. If you want to speak to the application.
Yeah, so in principle, we don't really have any objections. We live just a short way away. But I do have a slight issue with the observation that it won't impact parking. That plot of land regularly has at least 4 cars parked on it. Now, I don't know what they're there for, but obviously if there's houses there, those cars won't be parked there. So I assume they're going to go onto the street, which isn't satisfactory, certainly in the winter. We have had some issues with numerous cars parked on that street, blocking snowplows and causing some problems. The other thing, which is kind of an aside for you guys, but I noticed there was a noise mention in the in the application. And just to say that I don't think any of the existing residents had the courtesy of being told about the noise, which has caused problems, but that's probably not for this meeting.
Thank you, Dave. Do any members, oh, Linda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you to, sorry, I don't have my full screen on here, to Mr. Beard. So the noise, is that in relation to the commercial, the existing commercial?
Yes, it's well known to the council.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Tim?
Question through you to staff there, just about the parking again. This would follow the same as the other application that where there are parking requirements for the building that each unit has their own parking or parking available for the new units.
Through the chair, member Cronin, that is correct. So each unit of the proposed semi-detached dwelling, 1 unit per lot, would each to itself require 1 parking space.
Okay, then if I may have a follow-up, then the commercial unit up front and a dimension of the 4 extra cars in the back, I'm assuming that would be the people using the front. What parking requirements is for the commercial unit at the front, and does that change with this creating lots at the back?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
David?
Sorry, I was having some bandwidth issues there. This wouldn't change the requirement for the commercial should severance be approved. So the use on the commercially zoned portion of the property is not changing or not proposed to change. Therefore, the parking requirement would not change.
I guess the real follow-up again, Charles, the real follow-up was the parking at the back though, was that considered as part? Does it change it that they don't have the park in the back anymore? So if the commercial, do they have their park in the front, or where do they where are their parking requirements filled up?
Right.
Member Cronin, perhaps I'll leave that with the applicant to try and help answer what the intention is there.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and maybe Phil knows the site a little bit better than me. From my understanding, the parking in the rear is just sort of people parking on the lawn. I don't think it's a formal parking lot that's used for the front commercial use, but maybe Phil can shed some light on that.
Yeah, for sure. So we do have parking in front of the commercial unit. Right now, we are using it as a patio as part of the, I don't know if it's bylaws or whatever it is for the COVID. As we serve food and drink, we've been using it as a patio. But we do also own properties directly across the road at 1386, I believe is the address, as well as 1380 and 1382. So we have ample parking. There'd be no concerns about any parking anywhere. I think we have 9 registered spots on the commercial lot, and then we've got over 100 across the street when it's all combined. So we have quite a bit of parking.
Okay, Tim?
Thank you. That just answered my question. So the 4 cars that are there have a place to go without just being on the street was what the concern was. They wanted to make sure that they had additional places to go. So that answered my concern. Thank you.
No problem.
Linda?
Mr. Chairman, through you to staff, to David. So I see there's a road widening condition for the severances. Just want to make sure that that's not going to affect lot area, lot coverage, or, well, I guess lot coverage will be 10 when they put the building permit in, but won't affect zoning requirements for lot area.
Through the chair, member Dixon, that is correct. The requested road widening, which engineering has asked for in this case, wouldn't impact on the noted zoning requirements based on the development proposal.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions of the committee for the applicant? Okay, how would the committee like to handle this application? Tim,
Okay, I can make a motion that consent application B 18/2022 on behalf of the Village Beer Garden concerning the sub property as 1381 King Street North, St. Jacob, to sever a new lot in the residential R3 zone, have approximately 562 square meters and a frontage of 20.25 meters, be approved, subject to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 in the recommendations be approved.
do we have a seconder for that? Linda?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I could make a friendly amendment to that for condition 12, that it be condition 12, and it just read as 12 as B is set out, and that A is removed from that condition. I am not comfortable imposing a condition on retained lands when we're really dealing, our role is to deal with the division of the land, not the retained land. So I would prefer it just read as 12. Region of Waterloo may defer the RSC on the retained lands to future building permit stage, subject to receiving written confirmation from the chief building official, and so forth and so on.
And I would certainly accept that a friendly amendment to make 12, just the readings of B and BV out of it.
Okay, so then will we still have Tim as the making the motion and Linda seconding it?
Yes, I will second that.
Okay. So then all those in favor? And that's all of us. So then opposed would be none. And then how do we want to handle consent application B19/2022? Tim, did you want to continue? Thank you.
I will continue. And that consent, I move that consent application B19/2022, the Village Beer Garden, address 1381 King Street North, St. James, to sever a new lot in the R3 zone having approximately 281 square meters, frontage of 10 square meter, 10.10 square meters, be approved, subject to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I don't have that other thing in this one. Be approved.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Do we have a seconder? Hans, thank you. And then all those in favor? And that's all of us. So all opposed would be none of us. So Jonathan and Phil, the motion has been passed. Just a reminder that the appeal expires on August 3rd of this year, 2022.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Gentlemen, I'll email the decision out. The last application this evening is consent application B 2022 for Sarir Holdings, Inc. at 354 Arthur Street, South Elmira. The property is zoned residential, 1-unit, low density, and for the portion of the property fronting on Arthur Street South, containing the single detached dwelling, and agricultural for the balance of the lands containing an accessory shed. The applicant is requesting permission to sever an irregular shaped 5.8 hectare parcel of land from the rear of 354 Arthur Street South and convey it as a lot addition to the adjacent lands located at 1065 Listowel Road, being owned by Birdland Developments, Inc. The proposed severed lands are zoned agricultural. The proposed retained lands at 354 Arthur Street South are zoned R2, containing the single detached dwelling, and will have approximately 36 meters frontage on Arthur Street South and approximately 0.2 hectares in area. Christian is here from IBI Group as the consultant on the application to speak to the application, as well as Dennis Martin of Birdland Developments. Christian, if you'd like to address the committee.
Thanks very much for the summary, Nancy. So as Nancy mentioned, my name is Christian Simonides. I'm a planner with IBI Group, representing the subject property owner. So I don't have a formal presentation. I think Nancy did a good job of providing a summary, but I do have some comments to make. So we have reviewed the staff report and have no objections to the conditions that are being requested. And we also support staff's recommendation for approval. Further, just based on my own professional planning opinion, it's our opinion that the consent application for the lot addition is consistent with provincial policy and plans, the regional official plan, the township official plan, as well as the zoning bylaw. So I'm here to answer any questions that may come up, as well as Dennis Martin from Birdlands Development Limited. So thank you for your time.
And do any members of the committee have any questions for the applicant? Linda?
Just a clarification for the applicant's agent with respect to the comments on the conditions. So you have no concerns with the record of site conditions regarding the region's comments with the plume, even though it's groundwater? I'm sure they're talking about the groundwater contamination with respect to Lanix.
Well, yes, so we had discussions with the regional staff, and so I believe it's, let me just pull up the condition quickly, but it's the second portion of the condition where there may be a waiver from the commissioner of the region's commissioner. So yeah, again, we don't have any issues with that if the waiver is in place.
Okay.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Linda. Any other questions from members of the committee? Okay, not looking like any. And sorry, Nancy. Oh, sorry, Linda, did you have a question?
I'm just seeing David's hand up. I don't know if David had something he wants to.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks, Linda.
actually, I do just a note for committee, and I meant to bring this forward separately ahead of our meeting tonight, but I just wanted to, there was a clerical error on the report with respect to condition 7A, saying that a record of site condition for the severed lands acknowledged by MECP. That should read a record of site condition for the severed and retained lands acknowledged by MECP, just to correct from what the region had actually requested. They wanted to see the record of site potentially apply to both the severed and retained parcels. And so that was just an error in our reporting. I wanted to clarify for committee.
Thank you, David. Sorry for missing your hand up there. Thank you, Linda, for noticing that.
No problem.
Sorry, so any other further questions from the committee of the applicant? And then, sorry, Nancy, was there anybody from the public that wanted to speak on this one?
No, there's no members of the public for this application. I'm not sure if Dennis wanted to just add a few notes or not, but I think Christian has covered it.
Thank you. Dennis?
Thank you. Yeah. I registered in order to give Peter access. Peter Serrer is here with me to give him access to the meeting. So he's joined me here. If there are any questions, either one of us are available. Birdland obviously supports it, and we're willing to move forward as Christian has indicated. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. Okay, so Tim.
Just a comment, and maybe through you to Linda. So this retained land record of site, does this still fall in line with the other one we just excluded, Linda? Does this fall on the same line as that one?
Well, I guess we can technically impose conditions, but really and truly what we're dealing with, what's before us is not the retained lands. This didn't come before us. There would be no ability for us to ask that on the retained lands. So I always get a little leery when we're asked to impose conditions on retained parcels. In particular, in this case, when I'm pretty sure because it's not clear in the comments from the region, but they talk about the plume, and the plume is we've looked at it for years in Elmira with the aquifer contamination, and that plume is slowly shrinking. And I have some insight into that because I do sit on the technical advisory committee for the township that deals with the groundwater contamination. So, but I've never, ever heard of any issues with soil contamination on this side. So, yeah.
Just my other comment, I'm with Linda on that, and I think my view is the region's going for a stretch, but I don't want to hold up the applicant.
Yes, exactly.
For something that they're not complaining about, but I have concerns about them stretching this out, and I'd be interested to see where the tribunal one goes and the other record of site conditions. So based on that, I'm okay with it in there because the applicant isn't complaining, but I have concerns about asking for more than they needed, just sort of the slippery slope. So just my comments for the record of site, but to not hold it up, I would support it as it is then.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you. So how would the committee like to handle this?
Your turn, Linda.
Linda.
All
Thank
right,
you.
let me, oh, sorry, my dog is barking.
That's okay.
Oh, okay, so B 2022, right? Is the right number? Okay, the consent application B 2022 concerning the subject property described are as municipally addressed as 354 Arthur Street South in Elmira to sever a parcel of land of approximately 6.07 hectares to be used as a lot addition to abutting lands located at 1065 Lister Road, being approximately 11.6 hectares to create a new consolidated parcel of land being approximately 17.67 hectares be approved. And let's just clarify here, subject to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7B, 8, and 9 as set out in the recommendations as set out in the recommendations in the planning comments be approved.
Thank you, Linda. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Jim, thank you. And then all those in favor?
Charles, could I
Oh.
just pose a question? Sorry.
Sorry.
Linda, just to confirm that I heard that correctly, you were eliminating 7A, or were you saying that 7A? Did you say
So
7?
I did say B because it looks to me like an either or. If that's not the case, then somebody can clarify that for me, but it looks to me like it's either or.
It is an either or, if I'm correct, and David can confirm that. So
Yes, it would be the B.
Yeah, just to confirm through the chair that the recommended condition includes both parts A and B. So it provides the option that either A or B could be fulfilled to satisfy that condition. And it's wholly dependent upon whether the commissioner planning for the region does grant that exemption. And again, that noting that there was a clerical error that part A is to read as for the severed and retained lands, which is slightly different from what we have in the written report. And that's to maintain consistency with the region's comments as received.
So based on David's comments, then my understanding is that both 7 and A and B would remain because it does provide the option for the applicant to get a waiver from the region.
I'm okay with it being A and B.
Thank you for the clarification.
Because
So what-
the applicant had indicated that they had no concerns with conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, and
Sorry,
sorry,
Charles.
no problem. Did we have a seconder for that? Hans, we'll go with you. Thank you. And then all those in favor? And that's everyone. So all those opposed would be nobody. So then I'll just remind the applicant that the appeal date expires August 3rd, 2022.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen, and I'll email out the decisions. That is all we have for applications this evening.
Great. So I guess we'll talk about the approval of the minutes. And everyone's had a chance to review the minutes from June 14, 2022. And does anybody need any changes made to those? If not, can I get a mover? Jim, you'll move those and a seconder?
Yes.
Hans, great. And then do we still have to all in favor?
Yes, please.
All those in favor? It's all of us, so opposed would be none. Sorry, just in the note, I think I go over this every time in the notes. It just says a mover and a seconder.
That's okay.
Okay, so we're all in favor anyway. That's good.
Perfect. I don't have any other business. There will be a full slate again for August meeting. We do have 7 applications. I'll be getting those out probably early next week. David, did you have any other business to add for the meeting tonight?
But no, nothing further at the present time.
Perfect. Okay. Charles, I believe then we are done the meeting.
Awesome.